leak from the Supreme Court. Tonight, the court has now confirmed that this draft ruling is real. The ruling shows 5 conservative justices ready to overturn Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that laid the foundation for abortion rights in this country. Tonight, Chief Justice John Roberts confirming the leaked document is authentic, calling it an egregious breach to the court, saying this is not the final ruling, but has certainly fueled both sides in this emotional debate, alarming millions who came to trust the 50-year-old right to privacy in making this choice as legal precedent, and heartening millions of others who have fought to overturn Roe v. Wade for 50 years. The leaked document showing those 5 justices supporting overturning Roe. The ruling would uphold a Mississippi ban on abortion after 15 weeks and explicitly overturn Roe v. Wade. Justice Samuel Alito writing for the majority that Roe was, quote, egregiously wrong from the start and is unsupported, in his words, by the Constitution, and that the authority to regulate it belongs to the states. And tonight, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, 26 states are likely to ban abortion very quickly. President Biden tonight calling this draft ruling a radical decision and warning it raises questions about other issues of privacy, including contraception and the right to marry. And tonight here, the new ABC News Washington Post poll showing 70% of Americans say the decision to have an abortion should be left to the woman and her doctor. So tonight here, what is the likelihood that this draft ruling will change in any significant way before the final ruling is expected in weeks? And what does this mean for millions of women across this country? We hear from all sides here. Rachel Scott in Ohio, but we begin tonight with ABC's Terry Moran, who has covered the Supreme Court for years.
From the first moments, the news of the leaked opinion on abortion drove people to the steps of the Supreme Court in outrage and joy. The leaked document, dated February 10th, is labeled the first draft of an opinion of the court. Written by Justice Samuel Alito, the 67-page draft opinion is clear, sharp, and scornful, declaring in its opening paragraphs that Roe v. Wade must be overruled, and that the 1972 ruling was egregiously wrong from the start. Alito adding, its reasoning was exceptionally weak. Several times, Alito describes medical doctors who provide abortion services as abortionists. And Alito dismisses the argument in Roe v. Wade that the right to choose abortion is part of the constitutional guarantee of liberty and privacy, insisting the inescapable conclusion is that the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. Foreseeing the controversy that overruling Roe will generate, Alito writes that the court must be above it all. We cannot allow our decisions to be affected by any extraneous influences, such as concern about the public's reaction to our work. The leaked opinion is written on behalf of 5 conservative justices, 3 of them appointed by President Donald Trump, and they were all pressed about whether they would overrule Roe v. Wade at their confirmation hearings.
So a good judge will consider it as precedent of the United States Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh was even more specific.
One of the important things to keep in mind about Roe v. Wade is that it has been reaffirmed many times over the past 45 years.
Senator Susan Collins of Maine, a supporter of abortion rights, was a critical Republican vote for Kavanaugh and Justice Neil Gorsuch. But today, in a statement, she says they may have deceived her. If this leaked draft opinion is the final decision and this reporting is accurate, it would be completely inconsistent with what Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh said in their hearings and in our meetings in my office. Today, a spokesperson for the Supreme Court confirmed that Alito's draft opinion is authentic, but added that it does not represent a decision by the court or the final position of any member. But outside, at the steps of the court, it felt like the deed had already been done. She might grow up in a country without the choice.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's horrible. It's so depressing. It's shocking. I can't believe it. And it makes me want to move to a different country.
This moment, it must feel like triumph is at hand.
Indeed. It does. When I saw it, I was texting everyone. I mean, it was just, what? It's incredible. And
With joy.
With joy, indeed. We're ecstatic.
For the institution of the Supreme Court, the leak itself is an unprecedented crisis. Chief Justice John Roberts issuing a statement calling the leak a singular and egregious breach of trust that is an affront to the court. but Roberts insisting the work of the court will not be affected in any way. Roberts has ordered the marshal of the court to launch an investigation into the source of the leak.
The court should tune out the bad faith noise and feel completely free to do their jobs. They should follow the facts and the law wherever that leads.
But Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren was anguished.
This is what the Republicans have been working toward this day for decades. They have been out there plotting, carefully cultivating these Supreme Court justices so they could have a majority on the bench who would accomplish something that the majority of Americans do not want. 69% of people across this country, red states and blue states, old people and young people, want Roe versus Wade.
And so let's bring in Terry Moran at the Supreme Court. Terry, we can hear demonstrators on both sides really there in the audio behind you. I know the court says that this draft ruling, though they confirmed it's authentic, does not represent necessarily the final position of any member. But bottom line here, the language could change some. But for people at home trying to track where all this is headed, you've covered the court for years. How often do the numbers change on the court, especially on an issue like this one, in the weeks before the final ruling?
It's rare, David. It has happened. It's happened in some high-profile cases that justices switch their vote. But in this case, given the oral arguments last December, when the conservatives were clearly asking questions not about whether to overrule Roe versus Wade, but how they might do it, and given the strength and force of this opinion, it's clear the writing is on the wall. These people know it. Roe's days are numbered. David?
You can hear the deep emotion behind you there, Terry, at the court on all sides of this. And as we showed you at the top tonight, 70% of Americans say the decision over abortion should be between a woman and her doctor. There was another number in the poll as well. When asked this way, should the court uphold Roe versus Wade or overturn it, a majority, 54%, supported upholding the decision. 28% support overturning it. ABC's Rachel Scott has been reporting on this issue for many months now, on the major changes already at the state level affecting millions of women. And now this leaked draft ruling from the court set to potentially affect women across this country. Rachel Scott from Ohio tonight.
If the Supreme Court ultimately overturns Roe versus Wade, at least 26 states likely to quickly ban abortion outright, including right here in Ohio.
If abortion is outlawed in this state, what would you think?
Well, I'd say they are denying us our rights.
Period. It's a woman's right to her body. That's just not right.
You sound concerned.
Yeah, I'm upset. I'm upset.
But for others, today's news a big victory.
I think it's a long time coming, and I think there should be a ban.
Even with all eyes on the Supreme Court, states around the country, including many across the South, are already tightening restrictions, forcing women to travel far from home to get an abortion. Here in Cincinnati, abortion providers we spoke with say they've seen women coming from as far away as Oklahoma. And tonight, Oklahoma's governor signing a bill banning abortion as early as 6 weeks before many women even know they are pregnant. Clinics there were already booked out for weeks. We spoke with Nicole, a single mother of 2 boys. She was told she had to drive to Kansas to get an appointment.
What was that conversation like on the phone when you were trying to schedule that appointment?
I was devastated. I started crying. I didn't know what my next step would be. I just couldn't believe it. And as I was crying, she was amazing. She's like, you know what, we can't do it here, but I can help you find a different facility. It's going to be in a different state.
The impact of the new laws already felt in the states. And if the Supreme Court does in fact overturn Roe, change will sweep across the country.
All right, so let's bring in Rachel Scott. She's live in Cincinnati tonight. And Rachel, I know it's also primary day in Ohio. This issue, this leak from the court was front and center in these final hours today as voters were going to the polls. I also know the Republican Senate nomination up for grabs, a big test of former President Trump's influence given his endorsement there. But first, the news from the court, this draft ruling, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, this immediately becomes a major issue with these midterms approaching.
Yes, David, and I can tell you that both sides are hoping to use this as a rallying cry. Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying today the rights of 100 million women are on the ballot this November. And tonight, right here in Ohio, one of the most expensive and contentious primary races in the nation. Out of a crowded field, former President Donald Trump deciding to support author J.D. Vance. Tonight will be the very first test of the strength and the power of that endorsement, David.
You'll continue to follow that race as well as the larger issue here at play. Rachel Scott tonight. Thank you. And one more note on this tonight. President Biden reacting with alarm at this leaked draft coming from the Supreme Court, calling it, quote, radical in the president's words if Roe versus Wade is overturned, and warning that it won't stop there.
If it becomes a law and if what is written is what remains, it goes far beyond the concern of whether or not there is the right to choose. It goes to other basic rights, the right to marry, the right to determine a whole range of things.
So let's bring in our senior White House correspondent, Mary Bruce. She's live at the White House tonight. Mary, the president saying Congress must act, but this White House knows they don't have the votes here.
David, inside the White House tonight, they are well aware that there is simply little they can do right now to counter the court if it makes this decision. The legislation that the president would like to see happen isn't going to happen, a point that the president seemed to acknowledge today. So instead, Biden is looking ahead to November, urging all Americans to back candidates who support abortion rights. And the president, as you note, is already warning that this decision could have widespread effects beyond abortion, impacting other freedoms, including access to contraception and gay marriage. David.
Mary Bruce at her post at the White House tonight. Mary, thank you. Our thanks to you, Rachel Scott and Terry Moran, our coverage of the abortion battle for tonight.